Welcome to App Stories, a weekly exploration of the world of apps. Today's show is brought to you by SaneBox. I'm John Voorhees, and with me, as always, is Federico Vitici. Hey, Federico.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Hey, we should jump right into follow-up because we got some tweets and some other contacts from people about clipboard managers. And there seemed to be an impression amongst some listeners that there are clipboard managers out there on iOS that can copy things in the background, and that's not accurate. What we're talking about, when we talked about this, and maybe we weren't entirely clear, but like when you're on the Mac, like if I have PasteSpot open on my Mac like I do right now, no matter what app I'm in, if I copy something, it ends up in PasteSpot.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work that way in iOS. In iOS, you actually have to do something to send the text or image or whatever it happens to be to the Clipboard Manager app, whether that's an extension or a copy and paste or however you get it into the app. You have to kind of manually do that as opposed to it happening automatically in the background. And I know that there are some iOS Clipboard Managers that have components on the Mac too, and that they sync using iCloud, but that's a little different. That's just synchronizing whatever you've put into the Pasteboard app on iOS and having it sync back to your Mac, or having whatever happens on your Mac sync over to iOS. But that's not quite the same as being solely in a random app on iOS, copying something and having it magically appear in your Clipboard Manager.
Yeah, that's right. Technically impossible for iOS Clipboard Managers to do this. And we got some feedback saying, why didn't you mention or test this Clipboard Manager called Paste? And I'm aware of Paste. It's a popular Clipboard Manager on iPhone, iPad, and Mac. It syncs between platforms. And some people told me Paste can copy everything in the background. And no, that is technically not true. It's not possible. I tested it myself again. Even if you enable the Paste widget, and if you leave, Paste running for a short amount of time, it'll still not monitor every single thing that you copy to the clipboard in the background. Again, because that is not possible on iOS. Now, I do agree with some people saying, but this should be possible. Look, you will not find a biggest proponent of clipboard managers than me, and John, I think, agrees with me. Like, I want this category of apps to be as powerful on iOS and iPadOS as it is on the Mac. But right now, we've done our research, believe us, and it's not possible. So, I'm also, we received a nice comment from the developers of AnyBuffer. I believe they are working on some really nice updates based on what we discussed last week. So, hopefully we will get some new APIs, in iOS 14 at WWDC. I want to believe that Apple is aware of the fact that the clipboard managers, especially for power users, are some of the utilities that they rely on the most on the Mac. And maybe there's a way to make them happen on iOS as well in a way that is secure and as, privacy built in and performance built in. So fingers crossed.
Right. Yeah, I think it's time. I mean, especially now that we have multi-windowing systems and that sort of thing, it just feels like the kind of feature that should be there in a little bit more robust way than it really is now. So, Federico, let's talk today about utility apps, because you and I have a bunch of utilities that we rely on, and some of them might be the kinds of things that we only use, maybe once a week, maybe once a month, maybe only a few times a year, but they're still really handy apps to have around, and they tend to be, I think they tend to be single purpose apps. I was going to say limited in functionality, but that's probably not fair to the apps, because these are all really good apps. They have a very tight, narrow focus, which is one of the benefits of them, because that allows us to, get a particular task done the best way possible. And, but we haven't talked about all these in the past, and I thought we would talk about some of them today. What do you think?
Yeah, we've done these kinds of episodes before where we just talk about a bunch of utilities. We love utilities. I think it's, as you said, they're the kinds of apps that do one thing and they do it extremely well. So we both prepared a collection of 4 utilities we want to mention each. So I'll just start and mention Broadcasts, which is the new internet radio app by Steve Troughton-Smith. You've probably seen other internet radios app on your iPhone, on the Mac, or the iPad before. Broadcasts is my favorite. It's on my home screen everywhere now. because it's a new kind of universal app. So it takes advantage of the latest technologies available for universal purchases and Mac Catalyst. So you will find the same experience on the iPhone, on the iPad, and the Mac. And unlike other internet radio apps, which tend to be iPhone only most of the time, Broadcasts has an excellent iPad version that resembles a desktop music player. It's really well done. It integrates with all the modern Apple technologies on the platform, from dark mode to context menus to even the pointer integration in iPadOS 13.4 with custom hover effects and custom transitions when you hover with the pointer over certain elements. Is really well done. And the reason that I like and use broadcasts so much is entirely because of the current lockdown situation. Sylvia and I are fortunate that even though we have a very small apartment, John, you've been here, you know how small it is.
Right.
We do have, and it's quite funny actually, because the apartment, the indoor area is very small, but we have a huge balcony outside, and we
You
also
do.
have two additional smaller balconies. And one of them, which is where we usually, it used to be like the washing machine balcony and the dryer balcony, but we
Mhm.
rearranged a bunch of things because Sylvia noticed a couple of weeks ago that that balcony in the afternoon is directly exposed to the sun.
Ah, nice.
So we thought, well, we cannot go to the beach because we're in lockdown. So why don't we create our own private beach on this balcony? And we have one of those two like beach type chairs that we can use.
Sure.
And we have towels, and we can make ice. And so I thought, why don't we sort of create our own private beach on the balcony and sunbathe? And we can make like fresh juice in the afternoon, as a sort
That's
of as
nice.
if we were like at a beach bar or something.
Right.
And that's what we've been doing. And when we go to the beach, like to the regular beach, we like to listen to the radio just to leave something on playing in the background at the beach
Mhm.
without bothering other people, of course. And so I thought, well, maybe this is a good opportunity to test broadcasts. And I don't know, maybe it's the current lockdown, but I felt a certain sympathy for listening to Italian radio at this time of our lives. And so in
Mhm.
broadcasts, I was able to add a few of my favorite Italian radios, and they are presented with high resolution artwork, and the stations, they sync between devices, so I can also listen from my iPad. And even nicer, I sent the developer, Steve Turner Smith, a note asking for proper metadata display of a specific Italian station, and he was kind enough to add support for showing you like the title of a song and the
Oh,
artist
nice.
that is currently. So yeah, that's very nice. So yeah, broadcasts, super well done. A single native, consistent experience across platforms. It's on my home screen. It's very good, and I like listening to Italian radio with it. I also have a private URL for Relay FM live streams that I'm not supposed to share with other people, but the Relay guys, they are my friends. So this is a humble brag. I can also listen to Relay live shows. I'm sorry. Please don't ask Steven and Mike about it. They will not give it to
I
you.
know.
Just for me.
No, they won't. Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, I feel the same way as you do. I'm dying for the weather to turn a little bit warmer in Chicago so we can spread our lockdown lives out into the backyard and enjoy the sun. It's been, as you know, it snowed not more than maybe a week ago in Chicago, which was crazy.
God.
But but it's getting better, and so I will definitely check out broadcasts when we're sitting out there taking it easy. So I'm gonna start with Pixo, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because I know we did an episode when I started doing the Shortcuts Rewind series of articles on Mac Stories. And by the way, there's a new one of those coming. It's being planned. It'll be a little while, but it's coming.
Good to know.
Yeah. I haven't told you that yet, but I'm telling you right here on the show.
Good. I'm pleased to hear it.
I've got a topic and I'm going to work on it. But when we did the episode, when I talked about kind of the process of putting together the screenshots for the workflows that I highlight in that particular series, I use Pixo because what Pixo does, I mean, when you have a shortcut and you need to screenshot it, unless you're only talking about 2 or 3 actions, it's going to extend beyond one screen of information. So I just do multiple screenshots, take those, and when you open up Pixo, it asks you whether you want to, you select from your recent screenshots. And then you can either do a horizontal or a vertical screenshot. I always use vertical because that's the kind of stuff that we do. But as soon as you do that, it opens them all up in that orientation with little borders between them that allow you to drag each of the screenshots so that the edges can be lined up and you don't have, whatever repeat information you have from one screenshot to the other. It's really super easy to use. It's easier to use than it is to describe. But once you kind of get one border between 2 screenshots lined up properly, you can tap it and kind of lock it into place and then move on to the next one. And it also has, cropping features and things like that. It's just a great way to take a series of screenshots that you want to combine into one single image. Another good use for this is something like if you're on a web page and you want to screenshot the entire web page, but it extends beyond the length of your screen. This is another good way to handle that kind of thing. And it's one of those apps that I don't use constantly, but whenever I have one of these shortcuts rewind stories to do, I absolutely pull it out because it's one of the first things I do is go through the shortcut, get all my screenshots, get the cropping right, and then put it all together with Pixo. So it's highly recommended.
Nice. Yeah, I also use it. It's a very good utility. Whenever I need to share like a long shortcut as a screenshot, that's what I use.
This episode of App Stories is brought to you by SaneBox. Getting your inbox to zero is almost impossible these days. We all get just a ton of email, and sometimes the really important stuff, the emails that matter the most, just get lost, and that's where SaneBox comes in. As messages come in, SaneBox will triage them for you, sorting the important emails from the noise. It will put what matters in your inbox and all the distracting stuff into your Sane Later folder, which lets you deal with what's important right now and to review everything else when it suits you. SaneBox also has nifty features like the Sane Black Hole, where you can drag messages from annoying senders so that you never have to hear from them again, and Sane Reminders, which notifies you if someone hasn't replied to your email by a certain date. Best of all, you can use SaneBox with any email client or phone. It will work wherever you check your email. I've been using SaneBox for like 7 years now, and it's absolutely crucial to the way I deal with email. I always stay on top of the important email because it's floated to the surface for me, and when I've got a little more time, I go back and I look at the things that aren't as important. It works perfectly that way. See how SaneBox can work its magic to remove distractions from your inbox too by getting a free 2-week trial right now. Visit sanebox.com/appstories today to start your free trial, and you'll also get a $25 credit. Again, that's SANEBOX, sanebox.com/appstories for a 2-week free trial and a $25 credit. Our thanks to SaneBox for their support of the show.
My second pick is Tot, T-O-T,
okay.
by the Icon Factory. It's the new plain text sort of scratchpad note-taking app that they launched a couple of months ago. I reviewed it on Mac Stories. I was very critical of its purchase, of its business model. But still, as I mentioned in my review, it is a very good scratchpad app. And now this is the kind of utility that you need to be the right person for this kind of app. I think it's a kind of app that makes more sense for writers, or at least for people who take a lot of notes. Let me explain. I use Apple Notes, right? It's my primary note-taking app, is where I save all kinds of ideas. But all the things that I save in Apple Notes they tend to be actionable things, in the sense that they are notes that I know I will return to. Somehow, some way, they will make sense and they will require additional notes, or Like, for example, I have a shortcut I'm working on and I have a note for that shortcut. And over time, I will fill that note with more information. Or I keep my Wi-Fi password on it, because I changed my Wi-Fi network name and password recently, and I still have not memorized the password. So for now, it's in there. So
Hmm.
like notes that are more important than random bits of text, but I still deal with those random bits of text, like I don't know, text that I copy from Safari and that I wanna share with John in 5 minutes, or some text from an email that I want to copy and paste as plain text, not as rich text, somewhere else. And this is exactly why I use Tot. It's like a temporary place where I can store text in the plain text format, deal with it, and forget about it. I think it's basically the way that drafts used to be years ago, like as a
Yeah, I
simple
think that's
scratch
right.
pad. Some people still use drafts exactly for this and nothing more. But of course, I guess the majority of drafts users, they're into workspaces and custom actions and scripting. But for
Right.
me, Tot is exactly what drafts used to be. And it's even better because it lets me switch between 7 different pages with the dots interface that they have. So I just really like Tot as a scratchpad for random bits of text that are not deserving of becoming an actual note in Apple Notes, and text that I just need for a few minutes, or that I just want to leave in there because I need to share it with somebody else, or because I don't know, Sylvia tells me something and I want to jot it down real quick before I forget. I put it in Tot,
Hmm.
deal with it, and then delete it. So it's a very nice looking app. It works everywhere. On the Mac, you can invoke it system wide with the keyboard shortcut. On the iPad, I just keep it in slide over. I also keep it in my dock. It's also my dock on the iPhone. So I use it a lot, but I use it for like 30 seconds at a time. It's that kind of utility. And I'm also playing around with making custom themes for it, because now you can make custom themes for Tot. Uh,
Ah, right, right.
on the Mac, you can export like a JSON file that is like a JSON dictionary where you can customize the colors and like the accent color and the background color. So I'm playing around
Hmm.
with that.
Well, that's really cool. I've been using it too. I wanted to experiment with it in the same way because you're right. I think that's how drafts kind of started. And what I like, I guess, about Tot that's different than drafts is the constraint of having the 7 pages
Right.
because it means you're not going to lose that note that you took. It's not going to get buried under a mountain of 15 others that you took. I mean, I know search is a powerful way to find things again, but I do kind of like the 7 page aspect of this. I've been using it for kind of similar things. Like I have one that I've just kind of dedicated to ideas. A lot of times I'll jot down something really quickly here that I know that I want to talk to you about when we're about to record app stories. I usually keep a shopping list in here because I've been ordering my groceries online during the lockdown. So when somebody in the family tells me we need something, I'll put it in here until I have time to go to Whole Foods or Amazon
Yeah.
Fresh and order it. Sometimes I'll put like tracking number. I have a scratch pad one with things like I had the tracking number for my magic keyboard, that kind of thing. It's really handy that way. All right, Federico, I've got kind of a theme to some of my utilities today, and the second one is another image app, and it's Pixelmator, and it's
Mm.
Pixelmator for iOS, not Pixelmator Photo. And we've talked about this in the past, but Pixelmator on iOS had become an app that I still had installed, but I had been keeping an eye on because I thought it might go away someday because it wasn't being regularly updated. And it was starting to really show and also make the app harder to use. But it just got a big update. And now it integrates with the document browser, which is fantastic. It has a new way for picking images. It's just enough. Plus, I guess it also has templates. It has templates for different, image sizes, which can be handy for things like a standard web page size or an iPad size or whatever you're doing. And I use this app primarily for putting screenshots together when I don't, we have shortcuts where we put screenshots in frames, and we do that for iOS devices a lot. But sometimes when I'm working on a Mac app review, all I want are a couple of windows side by side, and I just need an app that allows me to composite those together. It's really nothing more than bring in two screenshots of two different windows, put them side by side so they're not overlapping, trim the canvas, and then export it, to our CDN. It's super simple image editing, but there really aren't a lot of apps that do this super well and easily on iOS. Now, yes, I could use Photoshop for iPad, which I like a lot. It is a great app, but it's really not designed quite for this sort of simple compositing, or it's maybe just too much tool for that kind of use case. And so I'm really glad to see that Pixelmator has been updated on iOS, because it's something that I know I use a lot. I know Ryan uses it. Do you use it for some of your work too?
Oh yeah, I all the time. The basic Pixelmator I've been using for years. Like whenever I need to do something like a simple composite image,
Mm-hmm.
Photoshop is too much for me. And Pixelmator, I guess the best way to describe it is it's the kind of image editor where the UI has always made sense to me.
Right.
I have never been able to make sense of Photoshop's UI. But Pixelmator just makes sense for me, for my brain. I guess it's because it follows as much as possible the Apple interface guidelines. And Pixelmator to me just feels like, if you will, like an iWork app from that point of view. It's
Yep.
very consistent. And in fact, I'm surprised, honestly, that Apple hasn't bought Pixelmator yet. This could totally be an iWork app. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it really
I've
could.
been using it for years, even when like it looked like it was not gonna receive any more updates on iOS because the team maybe was focused on Pixelmator Photo or Pixelmator Pro. I've stuck with it, and now I've been rewarded because I got this major upgrade, and I'm super happy. Yeah, I've always kept Pixelmator in a folder on my iPad, and I use it like at least once a week. All right, John, my next pick is, and this may be a surprise coming from me, but it's an Apple Pencil utility for iPad. It's called Charcoal.
All right.
Charcoal is by developer, I'm going to get the name wrong, Lars Augustin.
Yep.
Um, it's a very simple pencil kit based drawing utility. So there's plenty of drawing apps on iPad, right? There's Linea by the Icon Factory. There's Concepts. There's, you can get fancy and get, Procreate. This is a simple drawing utility where you have a single page, a blank page, and the native Apple Pencil drawing tools, and that's it. Nothing else. So it's literally like a simple app where you create multiple documents. Each document is a blank canvas. You have the selection of tools for the Apple Pencil, the usual ones that you also get like in Apple Notes or Markup, for example, a custom palette of colors on the right side of the screen, and that's it. Nothing else. The app supports dark mode. It supports multi-window for iPadOS. So it's a modern utility that you can use during the day, you can use at night, thanks to dark mode, and has beautiful colors and the native Apple Pencil's sketching tools. And that's all that is. Like, it couldn't be simpler. And I use it because of this, because it's all I need, right? I don't need Procreate. I don't need multiple brushes and brush sizes and textures and whatever. I just want a page, the pencil tools, and some colors. And this is exactly what Charcoal gives me.
Yeah, this is a very nice app, and I think it's done a very good job of simplifying this, but also being unique, because I've started to see a lot more pencil kit apps on the App Store,
Mhm.
because that was a new API that we got with WWC last year, and so it's been adopted and brought into a lot of apps that maybe are broader apps that just need pencil kit support as well, like a note-taking app, but also a lot of drawing apps, simple drawing apps. But I like what Charcoal's done with this. I really like the color palette. I really like the way the tools are kind of laid out on the left edge of the screen. They're different than kind of the default pencil kit look. So it's got a really nice kind of calming, pleasing UI that works well with a simple drawing app like this.
Yeah.
All right, Federico, another app that I use a lot, and this is because my workspace is in the basement of my home is screens, because the Mac is down here. My Mac Mini is down here in the basement. And when I'm done for the day, I can't even tell you how many days of the week. It's probably more days than not. I go upstairs and I think, oh, I just want to make a quick edit to something I was writing on the Mac, and realize I didn't sync it with GitHub. So I don't have it on my, I want to pull out my iPad and make a quick edit, but the current version isn't on my iPad. So instead of going downstairs, I have my lazy way of doing this, which is I just open up screens on my iPad and navigate to my, my Mac Mini, and open up GitHub Desktop, do a quick sync, and now I've got the document ready to go on my iPad, because then I'll use working copy on the iPad end and use IA Writer natively on the iPad. So it's just, there are other uses that I have for it other than that. I mean, I think one of the nice things about screens is that it greatly simplifies connecting remotely to a Mac. It's not just an app that works on your home network. You can set up a helper app on your Mac called Screens Connect, and that allows you to remotely get on your Mac from wherever you happen to be, whenever you're on Wi-Fi or mobile data for that matter, outside your home. And while I haven't been leaving my home a lot lately, in the past I've done that quite a bit. If there's some document or some bit of information that happens to be back at home on the Mac, I can easily grab it with my iPad no matter where I happen to be. So it gives me just, I guess, an extra peace of mind when I'm not at home, that I can get to anything I need that I may not have locally on my iPad. On the other hand, it also helps me be a little lazy and sit on the couch and not have to get up and go do a sync, just unlock my Mac just so that I can sync with GitHub desktop when I forget to do that at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah, I also use it with my Mac Mini. From the iPad is super good, especially now that it's got the pointer support. So, my final pick is the kind of utility that you wouldn't expect to find on iOS and iPadOS. It's a terminal app. It's a shell, and it's called a shell. It's a dash shell. You can find it on the App Store if you search for a shell. Now, I obviously I don't want to talk about the specifics of what a terminal app and shell app is, but there's a single reason why there's a couple of reasons actually why I want to point out a shell here. First of all, it's just cool that we can have a terminal client on the App Store for iPhone and iPad. I think it's awesome that these kinds of utilities are now allowed by Apple. I think of course it's sandbox. It cannot do all the things that you can do with the terminal on the Mac. You cannot access files from outside of the documents container, but it's still, you have plenty of tools here. Like you can grep, you can use you can run most of the Unix commands locally inside the app, and so you can deal with text. You have both Vim and Ed for text editing. You have you can make web requests using curl, and Python and Lua, which are two scripting languages, are included in a shell. And then you have like the usual suspects of like network utilities like NSLOOKUP and ping and whois, ifconfig, all that kind of stuff is supported in a shell. Now, there's two more things that I want to point out here. It takes advantage of multi-window on iPadOS, so you can open multiple shells as multiple windows on your iPad, which is super cool. And also, you can install, if you want, and this is actually how I've been using the app, you can, because Python is included, right? So you can do things like pip install, which, the Python package manager, and install something like YouTube DL, which is the popular utility to download videos. Now, of course, you can install YouTube DL using a shell, but you cannot install FFmpeg, which is the video converter and batch encoding package. That's not available on iOS. I don't think due to licensing issues, I don't think it can run on iOS. So that means that you cannot use YouTube DL and do things like download videos from YouTube in the WebM format, for example. But you can use YouTube DL and download videos from YouTube on your iPhone and iPad using A Shell in the MP4 format. So you will not be able to download 4K videos, but you can download 1080p videos and 720p videos, and you will find them in files, I believe, in the A Shell local documents directory. You will find them in there, and you can download in MP4. And so that's pretty cool, I think. It's the kind of utility that, if you're a developer, if you're a programmer, this type of stuff exists on the App Store now. And yeah, I just wanted to point it out. It's free even on the App Store, so go check it out.
Yeah, this is a really great app, and that's really the only reason I use it myself is to download YouTube videos, because a lot of times I'll see a music video or something that I want to watch later, and I don't happen to be at a Mac, and I'm on my iPad, and it's just a super easy way to download that stuff really quickly and then drop it into a folder where Plex can serve it to me on my TV when I've got time. So the last app that I want to cover today, Federico, is an app called Inspect. And, one of the things that we don't have in Safari on the iPad or the iPhone is development tools. And, I'm not a web developer, but I do dig into the code of a website now and then, whether it's to grab some sort of assets for a story, an image, or maybe there's some sort of embedded MP3 or video or something that I want to download. And that's really easy on the Mac, because you just go into the preferences and you turn on the developer tools, and you've got all sorts of things at your disposal. But you don't have that on iOS. So Inspect is an app that it's a little hard to use. I wouldn't say the UI is great, but it gives you a lot of those things that you would otherwise have on the Mac for web pages. So I don't use this app a lot, but I do once in a while when I need to dig into the code of a website on my iPad. That's how I'll do it. I'll go into Inspect and start poking around in the HTML. Do you ever use Inspect?
No, because I have a shortcut that shows me the source code of a page.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a very basic one, so I should
Sure.
probably check this one out, actually.
Yeah, it's, there's a lot of different ways to kind of slice and dice the information on a web page. You can see all sorts of different information, and a lot of it's stuff that I don't use, but it does make it easy to kind of check out the structure of the page and see how it's put together. And as I said, grab the assets if you need them for a legitimate purpose, like
Yeah.
I sometimes do. All right, Federico, I think that's a good place to stop for today. I want to thank our sponsor again, and that is SaneBox. I also want to point everybody to MacStories.net. If you didn't know, that's a place where Federico and I sometimes write.
Yeah.
We can also be found on social media, on Twitter and Instagram. Federico is at Viticci, that's VITICCI, and I'm at John Voorhees, JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.